Hello there and welcome to your Newsmax Daily for Tuesday, December 17th, 2024. Wright Brothers Day in the US of A, celebrating the two brothers from Dayton, Ohio, Wilbur and Orville Wright, who for the first time ever successfully flew an airplane that they built along the beach of Kitty Hawk, North Carolina on this day in 1903. Shout out to those of you listening in the first in-flight state. Wright Brothers Day was codified on the government calendar by President Eisenhower in 1959 and has been honored every December 17th since then. On this December 17th, the current president, Joe Biden, has 0 events on his calendar before leaving the White House at 9 o'clock tonight when he and the First Lady head home to Delaware. A statement from the White House says senior officials are working with local officials in Madison, Wisconsin today to provide as much help and support as needed after yesterday's deadly school shooting at Abundant Life Christian School. A teacher and a teenage student were killed, 6 others injured, 2 of them at least critically injured. The 15-year-old female shooter took her own life on the final day of school before the Christmas break. Christmas Eve is a week from today, and this is what these people are dealing with. Yes, there are a lot of big political stories to discuss, and I will get to that. But when a 15-year-old girl comes to school, a Christian school, and shoots up the place, killing and injuring people, and then kills herself, there is no bigger story. We all take this way too much in stride now. It's not even shocking anymore.
At 10:57 a.m., a second grade student called 911 to report a shooting had occurred at school.
That's Madison Police Chief Barnes. A second grade student is what, like 6 or 7 years old, made the 911 call. Just think about that. And you want politics? The second sentence in President Biden's official White House statement yesterday said we need Congress to act, and then went on to talk about gun laws. That's what you're hearing about today, along with the drones and President-elect Donald Trump securing a $100 billion win for America before he even takes office.
We've just concluded a very productive meeting, and today I'm thrilled to announce that SoftBank will be investing $100 billion in America, creating 100,000 jobs at a minimum. And he's doing this because he feels very optimistic about our country since the election. And many other people are also coming in with tremendous amounts of money. You probably noticed that a poll was just taken. It's business is literally in 39 years, there's been nothing like it. It's been the biggest increase. Small business owners gave it a 41% jump. It's the biggest jump that we've had in 39 years. And nobody's ever seen anything like it. And it's just they're very optimistic. This historic investment is a monumental demonstration of confidence in America's future, and it will help ensure that artificial intelligence, emerging technologies, and other industries of tomorrow are built, created, and grown right here in the USA. One of the beautiful things about Masa is he's very much involved with emerging technology, probably knows it maybe better than almost anybody. So it's a great honor, and some of you remember after the 2016 election, also SoftBank committed to invest $50 billion in our country, and they did, and are very pleased to say that they kept that promise in every way, shape, and form, and now they're looking to do 100, and I've looked at their books. They do have the possibility of doing more. I'm going to ask them to do a little bit more, but first I'm going to ask him to speak and just to say a few words. Masa, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Howard. Thank you so much. I'm very, very excited. I would really like to celebrate the great victory of President Trump. And my confidence level to the economy of the United States has tremendously increased with his victory. So because of that, I'm now excited to commit this $100 billion and 100,000 jobs into the United States. This is double of last time, as President Trump said. Because I say, oh, President Trump is a double-down president. I'm going to have to double down. You know?
That is Masa Yoshison, commonly referred to as Masa, the CEO of Japan's SoftBank, investing $100 billion with a B in the United States, hoping to create 100,000 jobs solely because of Donald Trump. It's really incredible. He's even laughing at it himself that he had to double down because Trump is the double down president. In his news conference for Mar-a-Lago, President-elect Trump answered questions on a variety of issues from a large group of reporters that have been given access to events at Mar-a-Lago.
Can you comment on the drones that are flying around New Jersey ports? It seems like the American people have a big disconnect.
The government knows what is happening. Look, our military knows where they took off from. If it's a garage, they can go right into that garage. They know where it came from and where it went. And for some reason, they don't want to comment. And I think they'd be better off saying what it is. Our military knows and our president knows. And for some reason, they want to keep people in suspense. I can't imagine it's the enemy, because if it was the enemy, they'd blast it out. Even if they were late, they'd blast it. Something strange is going on. For some reason, they don't want to tell the people, and they should, because the people are really, I mean, they happen to be over Bedminster.
Will you shoot them down?
They're very close to Bedminster. I think maybe I won't spend the weekend in Bedminster. I've decided to cancel my trip.
Have you received an intelligence briefing on the drones?
I don't want to comment on that.
The government and the acting president know exactly what's going on. Wow. I'm not sure if that makes me feel better or worse, except that likely means the drones are not an immediate threat, right? Bedminster, New Jersey is home to one of Trump's golf clubs, if you don't know that, and that's where he usually spends his summer and has been planning a trip. National Security Communications Advisor Rear Admiral John Kirby, the guy with the most titles in D.C., continued to stick to the script this morning on ABC's Good Morning America.
These drones, these aircraft people are seeing are a mix of law enforcement drones, commercial drones, and hobbyists. We continue to see nothing that indicates a public safety risk.
And if you don't believe that, how about this?
The sun's going down a lot earlier now. The winter's upon us, and people can look up and see things. But I would remind people, when you look at these images, these videos, they have navigation lights on them. They're seeing them because these drones, these aircraft, are operating the way the FAA requires them to operate in U.S. airspace.
So we're seeing them because it's getting dark earlier and they have lights on them. I mean, how does he even say it with a straight face, right? Maybe the cocaine at the White House wasn't Hunter's. You know what I'm saying? Again, National Security Communications Advisor John Kirby. And this is KT McFarland, Trump's former Deputy National Security Advisor, on Newsmax's National Report.
And it's either the United States government or somebody else's government. And if it's the United States government, tell us what's going on. Why should we no longer be concerned? If this is just, a test run for something, the American people understand that. That's fine. But by not saying anything, you immediately assume the worst, that it's a malign attempt by a foreign government to do something we don't know what. And so the fact that every single day the Biden administration issues these fake, not very reassuring reassurances. Remember, this is a government that brought you Russia, Russia, Russia. These are the people that said, oh, Joe Biden's just fine. He's really sharp in meetings. Or Kamala Harris, she's terrific. Or the border, it's not an open border. So at this point, the government has almost no credibility. And where it is in New Jersey, as your map is just showing, it's near a lot of important stuff. It's near important cities. It's near Trump National Golf Course. It's near a military base. The other sightings that we've seen around the country, similarly located in important places. So why don't they not tell us? And with the fact that they don't tell us, you have to assume they're hiding something, which is even worse than telling us the truth.
Former Deputy National Security Advisor KT McFarland on National Report with Emma Reckenberg. This is Newsmax host and former Navy SEAL Carl Higbie, who has a real theory on the drones.
Remember about a year ago, the DOD, they sent a classified request to Congress to fund a short-term drone program for a few $100 million. Well, they didn't get the money that we know about, but why was the request classified? We know the Army specifically has requested additional funds in a non-classified setting as well. Look, I'm showing you. To date, Congress has not specifically allocated all their requests, but internal Pentagon dollars have flowed this way anyway. You know, the $5,000 for a hammer thing. And with a funding deadline just 4 days away, I mean, a shutdown will happen on Friday if they don't do this. What better way to bring the issue forward, right? Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle, they're asking the right questions here. And since Congress's answer is to throw money at literally everything, does it seem that far-fetched that they might stage this whole thing with drones to get more money for their programs? Not really. Think about it. Why else would they so cagey about all this? First, they told us that they weren't actually seeing, we weren't actually seeing the things that we were actually seeing up in the sky with our own two eyes. Now they acknowledge them, but there's nothing to worry about. Why would I worry about a car-sized drone that nobody can identify flying above my head? Of course, right? Meanwhile, every government agency is, again, pointing the finger at one another, and the current president still has not addressed the nation on this. Like, he hasn't addressed basically anything for 4 years, but this is kind of something I figured he would have come out and talked about. Why am I so worried about these unaccountable drones flying over my head?
Your kids probably have one of these, right? Not quite.
That's why. A little tiny drone with a bullet on the front. And meanwhile, they're just closing airspace over military bases in Ohio, now saying the installation leadership determined that none of the incursions impacted base residents, facilities, or assets. What? Okay. What? I mean, it's like things that make you go, huh? This is literally on the backs of the fact that we just found out that for 4 years, me and a handful of other people, we knew, it wasn't a speculation, we knew there were feds or their counterparts in January 6th protests. They told us, whoa, you're conspiracy theorists. And would you look at that? There were, in fact, 26 that we know about, confidential human sources on the Capitol, that hill that day. They 4 went into the Capitol, 13 went past the perimeter. Zero charges. Of those 26, 3 were tasked to go, 13 were and paid, by the way. 13 informed their handlers they were going, and 10 informed absolutely no one. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, Mike Johnson, where are the rest of the tapes that you promised to release when you became Speaker? You see why I don't trust the government? Well, what else has the government, via their left-wing media, lied to us about? Oh, that's right. There was that little known fake dossier that was funneled into the highest levels of the FBI to investigate and stifle the president of the United States. 4 years of Russian collusion turned out total hoax. 51 former intelligence officials told us that the Hunter Biden laptop right before an election was totally fake. It wasn't. It was real as it gets. Hell, they told us that Biden was sharp as a tack. Even the White House doctor was in on that one. Ivermectin doesn't work. Masks do. Vax stop the spread. Those were all totally wrong. Hell, the FBI entrapped a bunch of people to convince them to try to kidnap the governor of Michigan for a narrative. That was all BS. They told us the Border Patrol was whipping migrants. That was total fake news. They told us that they raided Mar-a-Lago because Trump had nuclear secrets down. Turns out all they took was a bunch of pallets of stuff that Biden had sent there at the end of Trump's term. They told us that BLM was mostly peaceful. Yeah, right. Okay, that's sure. All right, the Secret Service, they couldn't stop the shooter because of our sloped roof. They told us that Mar-a-Lago was worth $18 million, but they fined Trump $454 million for it. How about the fact that they've been telling us for the last 70 years that the world is going to end every 10 years from climate change? Look, I'm like 96-0, so excuse me for not trusting the thing that the government says, or does not say, for the next, well, at least 36 days. Like, you tell me you don't know what these drones are in the same breath that there's nothing to be worried about? I don't believe you.
That's Newsmax's Carl Higbie, host of Frontline, 5 o'clock Eastern, who also spoke with former Trump campaign advisor Roger Stone.
And there's too many of these to be unconcerned. People are panicked. They pop up over my native state first of Connecticut, oddly enough. Mm-hmm. These are not like hobbyist-like little drones. These are the size of a car or a large, van. So there's something clearly going on. The president, I think, hit this on the nose. And you're right, Carl. He knows. and they know, but they're just not telling us. It's just another one of the long line of lies that this administration has put forward. Remember this one? No one in my family has gotten any money from China, not my son, no one in my family, including me. Joe Biden said that.
Right.
Yet last week we see him pardoning Chinese nationals who have a giant stash of kiddie porn. Yeah. Explain that one to me.
But the other thing, Roger, listen to what he said about his presidency. Roll this.
We run a campaign that's basically scandal-free. It's hard to do in American politics these days.
Well, then why the hell did you give your son a blanket pardon for like 10 years?
Yeah, the whole thing makes no sense. And interestingly enough, that pardon covers the period in which Joe was vice president. That would be a period under which due to this recent Supreme Court ruling, he would have no immunity if he indeed took the payoffs. Then it appears the House Republican Oversight Committee has pretty much at this point documented that he took payments from China, payments from Russia, payments from Romania, payments from Ukraine. I mean, this is deeply disturbing, but that's why he fashioned the pardon the way he did.
I think so. I mean, essentially pardoning his co-conspirator, maybe. The other thing, too, is while we're talking about pardons, Bernie Thompson, remember, he was the chairman of the J6 committee. He was on CNN and he was asked if he would accept a preemptive pardon. Roll this real quick.
Well, you know, the president, is his prerogative. If he offers it to me or other members of the committee, I think I would accept it, but it's his choice.
Guy is so full of it, okay? He knows he did something wrong. He knows he deleted evidence with Liz Cheney, and now he knows that Trump might try to go after him for that. And he's like, oh, yeah, maybe accept, whatever.
Yeah, it's actually worse than that. So before he was named chairman of the phony January 6th investigation, he had filed a civil suit against Donald Trump, accusing him of endangering the lives of Americans, which, of course, he did not do. So therefore, how can he chair an objective, fact-finding committee? As far as Liz Cheney is concerned, we know now that she suborned perjury. She specifically went around the attorney for one of the witnesses, Cassidy Hutchinson, who perjured herself when she said that President Trump instructed Mark Meadows, his chief of staff, to call Roger Stone and General Michael Flynn on January 5th to find out what would happen on the 6th. Carl, I can tell you indisputably, no such phone call ever took place. I've never talked to Mark Meadows, or I've never communicated with him. I think I met him once in a green room at a rival network years ago when he was a congressman. So she suborned perjury, and she should be prosecuted for it. This whole I think the January 6th committee needs a special committee by the House to investigate what exactly happened, because the whole thing was a made-for-television hoax.
I mean, I'm just going to throw this out there. I'd love to see special counsel Matt Gaetz investigating the J6. That's just me. I'm just going to throw that one out there.
I love that idea, and here's why. We know that based on their arguments that he would not require Senate confirmation for that position. They argue that Jack Smith didn't. They argue that Robert Mueller didn't. Therefore, they can't now come back and say that Matt Gaetz can't hold that position. I think Matt Gaetz, who's a brilliant guy and a very good lawyer, would.
Longtime political advisor Roger Stone on Frontline with Carl Higbie. That is a hypothetical. Don't start running out saying you heard on Newsmax. That's a hypothetical. But yes, imagine Matt Gaetz appointed as special counsel to investigate the partisan January 6th committee. Stone, you remember, was sentenced to 40 months in prison for lying to Congress, witness tampering, and obstructing the House investigation into whether the Trump campaign colluded with Russia, but then had his sentence commuted and was pardoned by President Trump. And you remember it all started with his home being raided with armed FBI agents in the middle of the night. And the judge in Donald Trump's New York hush money case ruled yesterday that Trump does not have presidential immunity protection in that case. Newsmax judicial analyst Judge Andrew Napolitano on Wake Up America this morning.
So what are the implications of this? So what happens next with this? I mean, does this just end here? What are next steps?
Great question, Charlotte. The government has said we don't want to sentence him now because he's going to be president of the United States in a month. We recognize that. The people have spoken. We want this case, quote, put on the shelf for 4 years, and we'll revisit it in late January of 2029 when he has left the White House. Now, normally, when the government asks to delay a case like that, particularly a government that's been very aggressive about prosecuting a case, the judge will go along with it. He's got a couple of options. He could sentence Trump and suspend the sentence. He could sentence him to something that isn't even a wrist slap. He could dismiss the case. He could hold it in abeyance for 4 years. Who knows if Alvin Bragg will even be the prosecutor in 4 years? Who knows if this judge will still be on the bench in 4 years? I can't predict what's going to happen, Charlotte, because this has never happened before in history. So there's no precedent to guide those of us who examine these things and express opinions.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to ask you. In all of your years of being a judge, have you ever heard of delaying something for 4 years? As you said, put it on a shelf, and then we'll revisit all of this in 2029.
No, I've never heard of that. I think that the government is bowing to reality. Reality is that he was elected president by an overwhelming majority, and because he is about to become the president of the United States, this thing in New York cannot and should not interfere with his presidency. The Supreme Court has recognized that, not in the immunity case, but in other cases. He cannot go to jail while he's president. He cannot be punished by a state court while he's the president of the United States. He cannot be punished by a federal court while he's the president of the United States. I have to put in a good word for Justice Merchan. I believe he's doing what the law tells him to do. This is a very unusual situation that he's in. I don't believe that anything that was immunized by the Supreme Court was a critical part of the evidence against Trump. Having said that, I think the case was garbage and it shouldn't have been prosecuted.
That's Newsmax senior judicial analyst, Judge Andrew Napolitano, who is from New Jersey, by the way, on Wake Up America with Charlotte McBride. You know, where the whole drone thing started. All right, on Wall Street, not too far from New Jersey, stock markets opened in the red this morning as traders and investors await the big decision from the Fed on interest rates, which is due tomorrow. If the Dow closes in the red again today, it would be the first 9-day losing streak for the Dow Jones Industrial Average since the 1970s. And with that said, the NASDAQ and many technology stocks continue pushing higher and higher, as is Bitcoin, up over $107,000 today. Ethereum up over 4,000. And I know some of you who are really in the know are in or watching XRP. It's up to 265. All right, be sure to keep up with all of the news and breaking developments on Newsmax N2 and Newsmax.com, beginning each and every day with the Wake Up America National Report, Bianca De La Garza on Newsline, Greta Van Susteren, Rob Schmidt tonight, Finnerty, Greg Kelly, Ed Henry, John Bachman, Wendy Bell, and much, much more. And make sure you're streaming on Newsmax Plus so you can watch your favorite shows and hosts anywhere, anytime. Go to newsmaxplus.com. Make sure you're signed up. I'm Tony Marino. Thank you, as always, for listening to the Newsmax Daily. Please continue to share it with your friends and family or, anybody else. And subscribe on whatever podcast platform you may be listening to. Today is also National Maple Syrup Day. And if you indulge in true Canadian maple syrup, you may eventually be paying even more for it. Enjoy the rest of your day and keep on fighting the good fight.
News breaks every minute, every day. You need the app, the Newsmax app. Find it free on your smartphone store. Then watch us anytime, anywhere.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is